You think the thing hurting you most is the emotion itself. Most of the time, it's not. What actually drags you down is something else entirely. It's the moment you feel something uncomfortable and immediately want to make it go away. That sounds reasonable. It even sounds mature, like something a person who doesn't want to be controlled by feelings would do. But that's exactly where the problem starts. It's not your emotions that take you down. It's your urge to fix them. Here's an ordinary scene. You're driving. Suddenly, someone cuts you off, almost hits you. In that instant, your heart jumps, your palms sweat, your shoulders lock up, anger rises, fast. What happens next? Most likely, you don't just get startled and move on. You curse out loud. You decide the other driver is an idiot. If you happen to catch a glimpse of their face, you might even want to pull over and go confront them. And very quickly, the story in your head stops being about, that was a dangerous move. It becomes about the person. This guy is trash. People like him shouldn't have a license. People like him are morally broken. Notice what just happened. It started as a stimulus. Then it became a person. Then it became a judgment. And finally, it became a whole story of righteous anger that feels completely justified. This is so normal, we almost never question it. We just think, I'm angry because he almost hit me. What else would it be? But there's a story from over 2,000 years ago, told by a Chinese philosopher named Zhuangzi, a contemporary of Aristotle, that describes almost exactly what just happened in your car. A man is rowing a boat across a river. Suddenly, another boat crashes into him. Of course he gets angry. That's reasonable. But then Zhuangzi asks a question. What if the other boat was empty? Don't answer too quickly. Because this is where it gets interesting. The collision still happened. The shock still happened. Your body still tightened up in exactly the same way. But if the boat was empty, your anger doesn't quite land the same way. Why? Because an empty boat has no face, no intention, no attitude. There's no one to blame. And here's what you suddenly see. We think we're angry because we got hit. But a lot of the time, what really keeps the anger burning isn't the stimulus itself. It's that there happens to be someone to blame. Same collision, same shock, same tightening in the body. But the moment there's a target, the emotion finds a hook. It latches on. It grabs onto something. It starts gaining content. It starts growing. So before we go further, let me give you one sentence. In the physical world, force goes straight. In the mind, force goes backward. In the physical world, force usually moves in a straight line. You push a door, it opens. You hit the brake, the car stops. You feel thirsty, you drink water. But inside the mind, it often doesn't work that way. The more you try to process a feeling directly, the more it wraps around you. The more you try to get out of it, the deeper it pulls you in. Why does this happen? Here's something almost everyone gets wrong. You think emotions start with the thought that you first think something, and then you start to feel bad. But actually, it's the other way around. A real emotion rarely starts with a sentence. It doesn't start with a judgment. It's not that you first figure something out and then started to suffer. A lot of the time, the order is the opposite. First, your chest tightens. Then your throat closes up. Then your stomach drops. Then your breath goes shallow. Then your shoulders pull up. Then your face gets hot. Then comes that hard-to-describe sensation of, something is wrong with me right now. The body sounds the alarm first. The mind only shows up later to add the subtitles. This matters enormously, because if you don't see this layer, the whole thing looks like one single reaction. You'll say things like, I'm just angry. I'm just anxious. I'm just offended. I just can't take it anymore. But it's not one thing. It's a very fast chain of events. The body first, then the mind begins to attach. And that's the real subject of this video. Not the emotion itself, but how a reaction in your body gets dressed up, piece by piece, by the mind, until it becomes a problem you feel you have to fix right now. So let's start with the body. Bolte Taylor, a Harvard-trained neuroscientist, says something that became quite famous. She suggested that the physiological wave of an emotion doesn't last forever. It's often much shorter than we think. And what most people remember is a number, 90 seconds. But I don't want to treat this as some magic rule. It's not that every emotion disappears after exactly 90 seconds. That's not what it means. The real value is this reminder. The original wave of a feeling in the body may be much shorter than you assume. What drags it out into hours, days, or years of replay is usually not that initial spark. It's what happens after. And what happens after? The mind takes over. Daniel Goleman described this with a phrase, amygdala hijack. When the system senses a threat, your internal alarm fires off extremely fast. Fast enough that the signal to your amygdala can travel in around 12 milliseconds. 12 milliseconds. Much faster than the part of you that analyzes, judges, and puts things into words. So a lot of the time, it's not that you think first and then react. It's that you react first, and the rational you that you identify with comes online afterward. This is why people so often say things like, looking back, it really wasn't a big deal. I know I overreacted, but in the moment, I just couldn't stop myself. Right. Because in that moment, understanding isn't what happens first. Reaction does. But here's what really traps people. It's not the reaction itself. It's what the mind does after it comes online. First, it looks for someone to blame. It needs an external target, a person, a sentence, an event, somewhere for all this charge to land. That driver, that message, that person's tone, the one who didn't text back, the comment that made you feel small, the relationship where you don't feel respected. Second, it reaches for memory. The mind doesn't just process what's in front of you. It pulls in every similar moment from the past. This happened last time, too. I've hated this feeling since I was a kid. Why does this keep happening to me? These kinds of people are all the same. Third, it builds a narrative. This is the dangerous step, because by now, you're no longer just feeling an emotion. You're writing a script for it. He did it on purpose. Nobody ever considers me. This is just how the world is. I can't keep taking this. I have to do something. I have to get rid of this feeling now. You see it? What really pulls you under isn't the original spark. It's this whole attachment process. The target, the memories, the narrative. And then the most deceptive thing of all shows up. The urge to fix it immediately. This is where most people get it wrong. We assume that wanting to fix an emotion right away is a sign of waking up, a sign of not letting it control us, a sign that we're taking care of ourselves. But often, it's the exact opposite. The urge to fix it immediately is itself a signal that the emotion is already running the show. Because in a genuinely calm moment, you don't experience that kind of now, immediately, must disappear right this second urgency. That urgency is its own form of tension, a contraction, a resistance, I do not want this to be happening reaction. And this is where a few teachings from Buddhism suddenly become incredibly precise. There's an early Buddhist teaching that gives a striking image. It's often called the two arrows. The first arrow is unavoidable. The body hurts, the heart contracts, the shock arrives, the grief arrives, the anger rises. That's the first arrow. But what does the ordinary mind do next? It resents. It resists. It interrogates. It demands to know why this happened to me. It insists that this shouldn't be happening. It scrambles to make the feeling go away. And so, the second arrow comes. And the second arrow, most of the time, isn't fired by anyone else. You shoot it at yourself. So a lot of suffering isn't from the first hit. It's from the second. The discomfort itself may not be the worst of it. The worst part is usually the sentence you say to it. I don't want you here. There's another Buddhist word worth mentioning, dukkha. It often gets translated simply as suffering. But if you stay close to the actual experience, it's more like a kind of inner clenching, a state where reality has already happened and something inside you is still straining against it. So what this video is really about isn't emotions are bad. It's not you need to be more peaceful. It's this. What's crushing you isn't the emotion itself. It's the urge to end it as fast as possible. This is also why so many people end up in a very quiet trap. There's a particularly hidden version of this trap, and even people who've practiced for years can fall into it. They start learning all the tools: meditation, breath work, awareness practices. Are these valuable? Of course. But if the underlying motive is still, I need to get rid of this feeling fast, then even the practice itself becomes an extension of the second arrow. They sit down to meditate, not to see, but to eliminate. They watch the breath, not to understand what's happening in the system, but to stop feeling bad quickly. The moment they notice they're still anxious, a new wave of anxiety begins. Why am I still like this after practicing so long? Why can't I get even this right? Why am I not better yet? See what's happening? On the surface, they're healing. Underneath, they're still hunting that feeling down. It's like fire trying to put itself out. The more it struggles, the more it burns, because the struggle is the fuel. Remember what I said at the beginning? In the physical world, force goes straight. In the mind, force goes backward. Now you can see what it actually means. Inside the mind, trying harder to solve it is the longest path. The more directly you try to end it, the less it ends. Not because you aren't trying hard enough, but because the very act of trying carries resistance. And resistance is part of what keeps the emotion alive. The you that wants to win this fight and the emotion you've turned into an enemy are often not two separate things at all. They're like two waves in the same ocean. One says, I have to win. The other says, I'm in pain right now. But both are still churning in the same water. So this fight you usually can't win. Not because you're weak, but because you're fighting the wrong thing. The real question was never, how do I get rid of emotions? The real question is, how do I stop feeding them? That's where the question actually belongs. Not destroying, not suppressing, not covering it over with a more positive thought, and definitely not telling yourself you shouldn't feel what you feel. It's something else entirely. Can you see what your mind is doing and not go along with it? And the key here isn't a technique. It's not performing some polished version of a person who handles their emotions well. It's observation. First look at the body. When an emotion first arrives, don't rush to explain it. Don't rush to conclude anything. Don't rush to figure out who's right and who's wrong. Look at the body first. Is the chest tight? Is the throat closing? Is the stomach sinking? Are the shoulders pulled up? Has the breath gone shallow? Notice these things not to fix them, but just to see them arrive. This step isn't to calm down instantly. It's not to feel better right away. It's to pull yourself half a step out of the automatic storyline. Then, watch what the mind is doing. Has it already started reaching for someone to blame? Has it already started pulling up old memories? Has it already started writing a story about him, me, the world? Once you see this layer, you realize it's not one big reaction. It's a sequence, small movements, separate pieces, a life support system keeping the feeling alive. And then, the most important step. Don't reach out that hand. This matters. Not attaching isn't suppressing. It's not pretending to be fine. It's not gritting your teeth. It's not forcing a thought back down. It's not immediately replacing it with something more positive. It's just this. When you see the mind reaching for a target, a memory, an explanation, or an order that says, you have to solve this right now, you simply don't reach along with it. It's not mysterious. It's not dramatic. It's not even beautiful. What is it more like? It's like standing beside a river and watching the water go by. There are leaves, branches, debris, small whirlpools, things you instinctively want to jump in and grab. But you just stand there. You see them, but you don't go in. And most of it passes. Some faster, some slower. That's normal. The point isn't exact timing. The point is, you finally see something. Most of the things you thought had to be solved right now don't actually have to be. They don't have to be handled this very second. They don't need an immediate conclusion. I want to come back, at the end, to one more line from Zhuangzi. The mind of a realized person is like a mirror. I love this line. Because what makes a mirror extraordinary isn't that it analyzes, or processes, or controls what appears in it. It reflects. But it doesn't grab. When something arrives, it reflects it. When something leaves, it lets it go. And this is where I think this whole video really lands. A truly free mind isn't one without emotion. It isn't permanently calm. It isn't the mind that doesn't flinch when it gets hit. It isn't the mind that smiles and says, "No problem," when it's disrespected. No, a truly free mind is one where when the emotion comes, it can be seen. But the mind no longer rushes to grab a target, grab an explanation, grab an order that says, I have to solve this immediately. You'll still get the first arrow. You'll still hurt. You'll still contract. You'll still get startled. But you don't have to fire the second arrow at yourself. And that might be the kind of release so many people have actually been looking for. Not winning. Not suppressing. Not emptying. Not escaping. Just this. It arrived. You saw it. It left. And you didn't keep it here. You're not losing to your emotions. You're losing to the urge to fix them. And the moment you actually begin to be free isn't the moment you finally learn to control your emotions. It's the moment you finally see. The thing most desperate to solve everything is the thing keeping you trapped.